One of the harsh truths about being an artist or a creative of any sort is the fact that you probably won't make any money doing what you do. Unless you're one of the very, very lucky few, chances are you'll have to divert a significant amount of time and energy to working a day job, something to meet your economic ends while you fit your passion project into the margins. And as one confronts this, sobering reality, it can be tempting to fantasize about alternative scenarios. Like, what if all your financial needs could be met in one fell swoop? What if you just chanced upon millions of dollars that you could use to, fund your projects? Or what if you even stole that money? I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? You just pull off this one big heist and then just be clean and lie low the rest of your life. No one would even know it was you. And, sure, maybe a few people might get hurt, but, it's for the greater good, right? It's for art. Now, hopefully, most of you are adult enough to realize that this crime fantasy scenario is childish and wrong. I'd like to think I am as well, but who knows? But today we're going to talk about one artist who did steal money, a lot of money, and may have used some of it to help pay for her rap career. Now, of course, it's not unusual to have a criminal career that intersects with a rap career, but what is unusual is when the crime involved isn't, robbery or drug dealing, but sophisticated financial crime, specifically digital financial crime. And what's even more unusual is, well, that the music is this.
Razzlekhan, the Versace better win. Come real far, but don't know where I'm heading. Motherfucking crocodile of Wall Street. Silver on my fingers and boots on my feet. Always be a goat, not a goddamn sheep.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough one. So before we begin, let me talk a little bit about why I'm making this video. You see, over the years, we have gotten a lot of requests for polishing turds. Some of them we've been able to get to, and some of them we just have not had time for. But there's this one fan named Philip who emailed me several times over the course of like 2 years, begging me to tell the story of Razzlekhan. And for years, I just ignored him out of sheer laziness. And I feel bad about that. I just, I feel guilty about kind of blowing the guy off. And now I am about to make the longest fucking video of my career out of guilt. But in all seriousness, I am really glad that Philip turned me onto this story because, man, is it a doozy. There are so many layers of comedy and drama and crime and human psychology, and the whole thing is just so utterly, utterly strange. So who is Razzlekhan exactly? Well, she's many things.
I'm many things.
She's many things.
I'm many things. A rapper, an economist, a journalist, a writer, a CEO.
Yes, actually, she is technically all of those things.
And a dirty, 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 dirty hoe.
Yeah, sure, that too, I guess. But there's one thing she is that she did not mention in those bars, and that is a convicted felon. A convicted felon who helped launder billions of dollars in stolen financial assets. Which, frankly, is still not as offensive as her rapping.
I'm a motherfucking bad bitch. Go on, make me a sandwich. You annoying like vag itch. So lame, it's fucking tragic.
Razzlekhan is the moniker of one Heather Morgan. In 2022, Heather and her husband Ilya Dutch Lichtenstein were convicted of money laundering related to a 2016 hack of the crypto exchange firm Bitfinex. At the time of their arrest, the value of digital assets recovered by U.S. officials was worth a whopping $3.6 billion, making it the largest financial seizure in history. Now, Heather had been performing as Razzlekhan years before she was arrested, but for the most part, nobody noticed. However, once the couple was indicted, journalists discovered Heather's social media and her insane life as a rapper, and, well, predictably, they just had a field day. The story was sensational in a way that the media couldn't help but exploit. Heather and her husband were labeled the Bitcoin Bonnie and Clyde and things like that. And in 2024, Netflix even put out a documentary on the couple called Biggest Heist Ever. So, yeah, I'm a bit late to the party, but I still think this story is worth investigating. Not only is the crime absolutely bonkers, but Heather's rapping is strange in that perfectly liminal sort of way where I honestly can't tell if it's supposed to be some sort of high minded performance art.
Turkish Martha Stewart. Turkish Martha Stewart. Turk Stewart. Turk Stewart. Turk Stewart. Turk Stewart.
In other words, it is perfect polishing turds material. Incredibly odd music by a deeply complicated artist whose motivations are, I think we'll see, altogether too human. Razzle dazzle, bitches! Let's polish this turd. To understand this story, we have to start with the Bitfinex hack and the criminal case surrounding it. See, back in the innocent days of 2016, Bitfinex was one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world. On August 2nd of that year, the exchange suffered a massive security breach during which 119,756 bitcoins were stolen and transferred to a single wallet. At the time of the hack, the value of the stolen bitcoin was something like $72 million. By the time Heather and Dutch were arrested 5 years later, it was worth $4.5 billion. By the time you're watching this now, it could be worth 20 billion or $10. Who knows? Crypto is weird. But for years, authorities had no idea who committed the hack. Was it a criminal gang, a terrorist organization, maybe even a foreign government like Iran or North Korea? Nope. It was this fucking guy. The man in that picture is the aforementioned Ilya Dutch Lichtenstein. His name is Ilya Lichtenstein. He goes by the nickname Dutch, and that's what I'm going to call him for the rest of this video because I don't want to say Ilya Lichtenstein a bunch of goddamn times. But yeah, Dutch is a Russian dual citizen, and he also happens to be married to Heather Morgan. Dutch grew up in Glenview, Illinois, got a BA in psychology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and prior to the hack, he had co-founded a legitimate data analysis company called MixRank. And while technically Dutch was only arrested for the money laundering aspect of the whole crime, he did admit in his 2023 plea bargain that he committed the hack itself. Now here's where things get a little bit fuzzy. You see, in Dutch's plea bargain agreement, he claimed that he and he alone committed the hack and that nobody else, not even his wife, even knew about it at the time. And there have been some questions about this. In the Netflix documentary, they spend a lot of time exploring alternative theories of who could have helped Dutch commit the hack. They imply that his dad might have been involved. They even imply at one point that the Russian government might have been involved. Personally, I think that's a bit of a stretch. But I do suspect that Heather probably knew about the hack when it occurred. I can't prove that, but I just got an inkling. You know what I mean? Now, for a while, Dutch actually played it smart when it came to handling his stolen goods. He didn't run out and buy 20 Lambos or anything like that. In fact, by all accounts, Heather and Dutch were living relatively modest lives at the time, at least by downtown Manhattan standards. But if you know anything about Bitcoin, you know it's actually quite difficult to launder. All transactions are stored on a public blockchain, and authorities knew which wallet the Bitcoin had been moved to, so it's not like he could just cash out right away. Nevertheless, over the next few years, Dutch used various cyber tricks to try to hide the source of his Bitcoin. These included a labyrinthine network of darknet markets, coin mixers, peel chains, all sorts of shit that I have neither the time nor the expertise to explain. Point is, he did his homework, at least initially. Dutch was then able to convert a portion of this semi-clean Bitcoin into actual cash using a network of shell companies that interacted with virtual currency exchanges like Coinbase and Binance. And this is where we know Heather gets involved, because one of the companies that Dutch used to launder his Bitcoin was a company called SalesFolk, which was owned and operated by Heather Morgan. But what's interesting to me is that throughout this whole saga, the vast majority of the stolen Bitcoin never moved. In fact, something like 80% of it remained in the original wallet at the time that Heather and Dutch were arrested. But still, 20% of $4.5 billion is a lot of fucking money. And while Heather and Dutch weren't living too ostentatiously, I think that money gave them a kind of psychological comfort to, let their freak flags fly a little bit. And this is what I want you to keep in mind throughout this video. Almost all the music I'm going to show you was made between the time Bitfinex was hacked and the time that Heather and Dutch were arrested. Like, she is making this shit while sitting on top a literal digital gold mine. And with that, we can finally talk about the glorious monstrosity that is Razzlekhan's music.
Razzlekhan's the name, that hot grandma you really wanna bang. Always run the guilt game ever since I was 15.
I mean, where do I even fucking begin here? To state the obvious, Razzlekhan is a bad rapper, like really bad, maybe the literal worst that I have ever heard. There's zero flow, zero hooks, and the lyrics are like kindergarten level basic.
Bitch, you suck like a vacuum cleaner. Suck, just so suck like a vacuum cleaner. My friend's list about to get leaner, cause you suck like a vacuum cleaner.
Not to belabor the point, people, but imagine like an 83-year-old grandmother in Iowa, that someone who has never willingly put on a hip-hop song in her entire life. You could play this for that woman, and she would immediately understand that this is objectively bad rap music. Now, that said, there are aspects to these music videos that aren't so bad. The videos themselves, as you can see, are competently shot, and most of the time the production is on point. In fact, for most of her career, Razzlekhan used a producer named Keezus, who is a very legitimate producer. He has also worked with guys like Rick Ross and Meek Mill. I'll also give Razzlekhan credit for one thing. She very rarely uses auto-tune or any other type of vocal processing in her music, which unfortunately makes her quite a rarity in modern hip-hop. She also does this like weird vocal inflection in her bars sometimes. Like check this out.
Real icebreaker, no one crude as me. Not a peacemaker, bring the anarchy. Big booty shaker, coming from the Black Sea. Major earthquaker, give no apology.
Honestly, I mean this sincerely, it is her most singular quality as a musician. As far as lyrical content goes, Razzlekhan mostly raps about herself. Now, obviously, this is not unusual in the world of hip-hop, but with Razzlekhan, it feels like we're getting an extra layer of the personal. Like, she includes all these details that are probably true, but don't necessarily make her look badass. For example, in just the third verse of her song Versace Bedouin, we learn that Heather is of Turkish ancestry, prefers Vietnam over France, has synesthesia, a neurological condition where senses are crossed, and would rather be taking a taxidermy class than reading a Jane Austen novel. Like, cool. Good for you, girl. I mean, this is the type of shit I expect on a dating profile rather than a rap song. But don't let it be said that Razzlekhan lacks a social conscience. Indeed, she has a number of songs that present some sort of critique of our society and or culture. One of Razzlekhan's earliest songs ever was a polemic against America's failing healthcare system.
So much bankruptcy from this healthcare cost. American dreams totally fucking lost. Paying for healthcare bills with GoFundMe's. Either that or you got a cam in your undies.
I mean, she's not wrong. She's also had a number of songs that deal with misogyny and sexual harassment in the tech industry, which, as a one-time Silicon Valley entrepreneur, Heather is well familiar with. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Heather put out a song called Social Distance, where she tried to encourage people to take the pandemic seriously. And as noble as those intentions are, I gotta say, this video represents, in my opinion, the absolute summit of Razzlekhan's Himalayan mountain of cringe.
Who got coronavirus? Who got coronavirus? Who? Could be me, could be you, could be me, could be you. Who got coronavirus? Who? Do your part, social distance, do your part, social distance, do your part, social distance, stay 6 feet apart, social distance, COVID-19, COVID-19, this is what I mean.
Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. I need more tea for this. fucking Philip. You know, whenever I see a piece of art that embarrassing, the first question I ask myself is, do they know how bad it is? I mean, she has to, right? In a 2019 article that Heather wrote about her own rapping career, she says, quote, I am definitely not trying to win a Grammy for my voice, but I am addicted to rap. I know I still have lots of room to improve, but that's what I like about it. I don't know how to feel about this. Like, I don't want to be mean, but like room to improve. I I know I have room to improve. I know I am not great at making YouTube videos, but I'd like to think that if I was as bad at doing this as Heather is at making rap, I would know. Like somehow I would know that. Now, am I as bad as making YouTube videos as Heather is as rapping? Blah, blah. Am I as bad at this as Heather is at rapping? Let me know in the comments. But what's more telling to me is how Heather presents herself, which is not usually as a badass or a gangster or a lyrical wordsmith, but as someone who's just plain weird.
Never forget, weirdest is most original.
The trailer for her debut music video, Versace Bedouin, describes it as, quote, weird AF music video, and that word weird crops up a lot in her social media posts as well. On Razzlekhan's website, she cites famous eccentrics like Salvador Dali and Hunter S. Thompson as inspirations, and says that her music, quote, shamelessly explores new frontiers of art, pushing the limits of what's possible. Whether that leads to something wonderful or terrible is unclear. The only thing that's certain is that it won't be boring or mediocre. And yeah, it is definitely not boring and definitely something different than mediocre. So we see that maybe, just maybe, Heather is leaning into the peculiarity of her music to deflect attention from just how inept it is. But that strategy works because Razzlekhan is objectively quite weird. But to understand how she got this weird, we have to talk about Heather Rhiannon Morgan was born on May 28, 1990, and grew up in the small remote town of Tehama, California, population 400. She had a relatively modest upbringing, with her dad a government biologist and her mother a school librarian. Heather is also an only child, and I bring this up because, there's a stereotype about only children that they're somewhat narcissistic and attention seeking. And I don't mean to paint with too broad a brush here, but, I've known quite a few only children for whom that stereotype applies. Heather claims that she had few friends growing up and was constantly bullied due to her speech impediment. In this vlog from 2021, Heather describes the hardship of growing up in a repressive, small-minded community.
Growing up, I did not have a lot of friends, and it was really hard because no one really believed in me, understood me, supported me. No one was trying to do the things I wanted to do professionally. No one really understood me or shared those same values and goals. And in fact, most people tried to push me down and hold me back. Because I was smart, that actually threatened people, and instead of having them try to help me, even the teachers and like the principal, they instead basically was acting like I was too good, and therefore they were threatened by it.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Heather is many things.
Many things.
She's many things, but among those, she is ambitious, and in my opinion, yes, she is smart. And let's face it, small towns can be pretty difficult places for ambitious, intelligent, and creative people. Now, that's a stereotype I have no problem repeating. Heather would eventually escape her environs and become a genuinely global citizen. She claims to speak 6 languages and has lived in places like Japan, Turkey, Brazil, Hong Kong, and more. After graduating UC Davis with a double major in economics and international relations, Heather attended the American University in Cairo, where she contributed to serious academic literature during the Arab Spring. Okay, this is a complete sidebar, but Heather claims that while living in Egypt, she contracted MERS, or Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. For those of you that don't know, MERS was a viral pandemic that swept through the Middle East in the early 2010s. Heather claims that she was actually one of the first 100 cases of MERS. She's claimed this multiple times.
And as someone who had MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, and was one of the first 100 cases, and actually I had MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, in Egypt right after the outbreak. I was one of the first 100 cases. I had coronavirus, MERS, MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, when I lived in Egypt.
I looked into this a bit, and it turns out Egypt only had one confirmed case of MERS within the first 8 years of the virus. Now, is it possible that Egypt's one and only confirmed case of MERS was Heather Morgan, this white girl from California? I mean, maybe. Who knows? Honestly, the question drove me crazy. I researched as much as I could, but I still have no fucking idea. I'm literally the only human being on the planet that cares whether or not Heather Morgan was the one confirmed Egyptian case of MERS, but I do. If you can prove this definitively one way or another, DM me and I'll send you a whole bunch of polishing turd stickers. Eventually, Heather left the world of academia to try her luck as a Silicon Valley tech entrepreneur. She worked for a few startups, did a lot of networking, and eventually founded a cold email marketing company called SalesFolk. Now, if that name SalesFolk sounds familiar, congratulations, you are actually paying attention to this video. SalesFolk is the company that ultimately sent Heather to prison. According to the DOJ's statement of facts, on July 24th, 2019, SalesFolk received a Bitcoin payment equivalent to $130,000 from one of her husband's known shell companies. That Bitcoin, of course, came from the stash that had been stolen from Bitfinex years earlier. So SalesFolk is just a shell company, right? Well, actually, no. SalesFolk is, or at least was, a real B2B sales company with actual clients that they list on their still extant website. The gist of SalesFolk is that they help your company craft smart, effective cold emails that you can send to potential customers. To this end, Heather created entire long-ass courses on the subject, as well as extensive blog posts and YouTube videos teaching you how to, do sales emails better. I mean, who doesn't love getting a cold email, right? I mean, this is a job that I think I'm actually glad has been taken over by AI. In addition to being the founder and CEO of SalesFolk, Heather was also a contributing writer for Forbes and Inc. magazines and made a number of TED-like speeches in New York City. My point is, there's a lot to suggest that Heather had a legitimately successful career with or without that stolen Bitcoin. She claims that SalesFolk made her a millionaire, and you know what? That might actually be true. So does that mean my whole thing about using the stolen Bitcoin to fund her rap career is a lie? Maybe. I don't fucking know. I mean, it's complicated. If you haven't gotten that already, this is a very complicated story. I mean, you're already this far into the video. You've seen some of the worst music that God ever allowed to exist. So why not just keep on diving with me? In the Netflix documentary Biggest Heist Ever, they lean into this theory that the whole project of Razzlekhan stems from a sense of cognitive dissonance on Heather's part. The idea is that she felt so guilty about what she'd done and was so fearful about getting caught that she created this, over the top persona to help deal with it. But personally, I find this explanation a little bit too simplistic. It ignores the fact that Heather was always creative, always ambitious, always a little bit weird. She was just this small town girl desperate to jump into a bigger pond. There's this anecdote I've seen in several sources where one of Heather's former professors talks about how her email signature changed several times over a period of a few months. It went from Heather Morgan Economist to Heather Morgan Economist and Entrepreneur to finally Heather Morgan Economist, Entrepreneur, Hustler. I mean, she's always got to be a little bit extra, right? If you watch Heather long enough, you notice there's an underlying insecurity that's always present. This is someone who craves attention above all else. In many ways, it's more accurate to consider Razzlekhan an influencer rather than a rapper. January 13th, 2019 can be considered the D-Day of the Razzlekhan operation. This is the day she announced her new project on social media, posting 18 times on Instagram alone. In the months and years that followed, Heather posted not only her stupid rap videos, but also vlogs, juice recipes, deodorant reviews, and these weird fashion design videos where she takes perfectly fine clothes and accessories and makes them look like a 10-year-old's art project.
It's a monster face, and a tongue moves, it's a zipper.
Really?
Yeah, well, sweat,
Oh.
but yeah.
Wow.
It's cool, right?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
And some of it glows in the dark, some of it doesn't.
That's really cool.
My point is, Heather used Razzlekhan as a vehicle for self expression rather than as a calculated and considered attempt to break into the music industry. In the aforementioned 2019 article she wrote about her own rapping career for Forbes, Heather says, quote, I desperately wanted a chance to get to express myself authentically and creatively without all the constraints of the corporate business world. I mean, that's pretty relatable, right? Heather claims in that same article that she started Razzlekhan to help deal with burnout from her successful but exhausting business career. She had gotten the idea to rap after interviewing the rapper slash actress Aquafina in 2018. Aquafina is the stage name of Nora Lum, a self described neurotic girl who invented this over the top persona to push past her own awkwardness and project a kind of feminine bravado. I think it's pretty easy to see why a shy small town girl like Heather was drawn to such an idea. Now, by coincidence or not, the period in which Heather began performing as a Razzlekhan was also the period where, according to the DOJ, Heather began moving large amounts of stolen Bitcoin into her personal and business accounts. Did the creation of Razzlekhan give Heather the confidence to finally start moving that money around, or did that vast pot of cash give Heather the confidence to finally embrace her identity as Razzlekhan? We'll never know for sure, but either way, the whole thing was about to blow up in her face. On February 7th, 2022, Heather and Dutch's apartment was raided by federal officials, and they were each charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering. The raid on the couple's apartment reads like something from a made-for-TV movie. Inside their apartment, authorities found $40,000 in cash tied together with rubber bands, hollowed out books with cash and electronics inside, and even a big plastic bag of phones labeled burner phones. One detail I find interesting is that on February 17th, 10 days after she was charged, Heather re-uploaded her social distancing music video. Like seriously, she's like, okay, now I finally have a name for myself. Now people are finally paying attention. What can I show them that represents the best that I got? And you know what? It worked. Like the re-upload got significantly more views than the original. Of course, the couple ended up pleading out. Dutch, who confessed to the Bitcoin hack, was sentenced to 5 years in prison, while Heather was only sentenced to 18 months, out of which she only served about 12. Upon release, Heather used her newfound insight into the criminal justice system to create new content, including a new single about her legal fight called Razzlekhan versus the United States.
Weird enough to capture your case. They think I'm from outer space. Everyone wanna taste. Razzle in your face.
Heather has claimed that within the lyrics to this song, there are little Easter eggs that allude to aspects of the case that were hidden from public view, but I've never been able to tease them out. I guess I'm just too distracted by how aggressively she's showing her ass in this video. So yeah, Heather Morgan is no longer behind bars, but she's still down to drop some bars. Indeed, her YouTube channel is still going strong, and if you have an extra $15 a month to spare, you can get exclusive access to, among other things, exclusive Razzlekhan freestyles.
Salvador Dali, trippy like Gaudi, always the party, cause I bring that arty. Never been thoughty, but got a Middle Eastern body, so you know I'm a hottie.
I mean, who wouldn't pay $15 a month for that? That is a steal. I mean, a real steal, not like stealing 119,756 Bitcoin. But the thing of it is, Heather actually does appear to have some sincere fans. I mean, if you scroll through the comment section of any of her videos, you'll have to dig through about 10 or 12 different Bitcoin jokes. But after that, you get some people who appear to genuinely like her content. I mean, as with Barron Trump, I'm sure many of them are bots, but some of them are probably real. But as far as the rest of the world goes, Heather is pretty much a laughingstock on the internet, but, she doesn't seem all that affected by it. And this makes sense, when you consider Heather's brand, how Razzlekhan is all about not giving a fuck and just embracing weird for weirdness' sake. And I want to be clear, that identity, that message is a genuinely good one that, we should be propagating to kids. I just wish it came with better music. That's all. So one of the things that makes Razzlekhan work as a lol cow, as a viral phenomenon, is this idea that you get to make fun of this person guilt-free. Like she did an objectively bad thing for which she should have been punished. And in addition to that, she is making music that is also objectively bad. So it's a perfect storm, right? And I'm not here to tell you that you should feel guilty for making fun of Razzlekhan. I mean, I'm doing that too, right? But I just think it's worth looking at the whole story from her perspective as well. I've said that Heather doesn't seem affected by the deluge of criticism she's gotten online, but she has to feel it on some level, I think. And if I had to put myself in Heather's head, I'd say that all the hatred and mockery that she gets from various corners of the internet, it probably reminds her of all those kids that bullied her in school, all the people who made fun of her lisp and told her she wasn't good enough and, told her that she was never going to amount to anything. This is the way Heather views the world, and everything that she's done as an artist, as a person, has been to kind of get back at those bullies from her childhood. And if you have this mentality that your bully's goal is to just stop you from being you, then the most important and noble thing that you can do is to just be yourself as, freakishly and shamelessly as possible. It doesn't matter if it's objectively good or not. It only matters that you showed up today as Razzlekhan. And that idea is going to hold true whether your bully is some NorCal townie or an internet troll or the US Department of Justice. I'm going to reference the TV show Breaking Bad. In that series, the mild-mannered and timid Walter White slowly transforms into this sociopathic meth kingpin Heisenberg. And ever since the show began, fans have always debated over at what point does Walter become Heisenberg. But my thesis is that he always was, right from the very first episode. He just needed the right circumstances to allow this dark persona to spill out. And similarly, I think that to some degree, Heather Morgan always was Razzlekhan. Maybe the stolen Bitcoin was the cancer/meth trade that allowed Razzlekhan to surface, but some part of her always had that in her. At some point, she was gonna show Razzlekhan to the world. And even though it's yours and my punchline, it's her hero's journey. All right. That's all I've got. Thank you for watching this video. Please drop a like if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment if you've also stolen billions of dollars of Bitcoin, but were too humble to attempt a rap career. And subscribe if you like seeing a weird guy talk about even weirder music. And shout out to Philip for suggesting this video. But also, fuck you, Philip. You've ruined like 3 months of my life and I will never forgive you. Just kidding. Just kidding. We're cool, Philip. We're cool.
Razzlekhan, the Versace better win. Come real far, but don't know where I'm heading. Motherfucking crocodile.